In this module, we will cover the Office 365 one-click integration capability and the option to control access to certain corporate application suites, Box, Google Apps, and Salesforce. The first topic that we will cover is the ability to create one-click policy for Microsoft Office 365 applications. Office 365 is a suite of popular cloud-based productivity and collaboration applications from Microsoft that you can purchase in various bundles. It includes optional directory services with Azure AD for authenticating Office 365 users, email access to Exchange Online either using Outlook or Outlook Web Access, collaboration applications such as Skype for Business Online Meeting and Yammer, and file sharing and workspace applications such as SharePoint Online, OneDrive, and the Office productivity applications. When Office 365 applications are used within a web browser, most of the traffic can be handled by the Zscaler service, as long as authentication and SSL inspection are enabled. This allows Zscaler to enforce corporate compliance policies for Office 365 traffic, such as security, data loss prevention, and bandwidth control policies. However, enterprises prefer to deploy native Office 365 applications, such as Outlook, Skype for Business, and OneDrive, instead of using these applications within a web browser. While these native applications provide a better user experience, they also present additional challenges from a security solutions viewpoint. When the Zscaler outbound firewall is also enabled, the Zscaler service can also handle non-web ports and protocols to provide granular access control and visibility for all Office 365 traffic. Note that if you use Kerberos authentication, this allows the service to authenticate all Office 365 client-based traffic that is otherwise not compliant with Zscaler's default cookie-based authentication. But note that because Kerberos authentication cannot be used in transparent proxy mode, you must deploy pack files as well. If you want to implement group and user policies, and leverage the user and department reporting capabilities of the Zscaler service, user authentication is required. For Office 365 users, Zscaler supports authentication using Microsoft Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and ADFS for SAML-based single sign-on. Zscaler does not support content inspection for non-HTTP or HTTPS traffic. So although we can intercept tunneled traffic, we cannot inspect the content. For example, for the Outlook connections to Online Exchange Server. As a result, we must add many Office 365 application URLs to the Do Not Inspect Sessions to These Hosts list to disable SSL inspection for them. In the past, these exceptions had to be configured manually. The Office 365 one-click option greatly simplifies the configuration of Zscaler to effectively support Office 365. It is enabled on the Policy, URL and Cloud App Control page on the Advanced Policy Settings tab. With the Office 365 one-click configuration enabled, Zscaler automatically configures the Do Not Inspect Sessions to These Hosts list and the authentication exemption rules required for the service to seamlessly support and secure your Office 365 traffic. In addition, we automatically exempt the necessary URLs from SSL inspection, as well as exempting URLs from cookie-based authentication when necessary. We also exempt Office 365 traffic from certain policies, such as URL and Cloud App Control, Cloud Sandbox, Advanced Threat Protection, and Malware Protection. Zscaler monitors the Office 365 destination IP addresses and URLs, fingerprints the apps, and adjusts the configurations accordingly, so you won't have to worry about any URL changes in the Office 365 applications. We also automatically add and manage a firewall rule and a DNS control rule for the Office 365 applications. We automatically apply a DNS override for Office 365 traffic received on transparent proxy connections, meaning in tunnels, to ensure that the user is redirected to the closest Microsoft instance. Using the one-click capability ensures the best possible user experience for your Office 365 users, as their connections will always be optimized no matter where they connect from. If you use any of the Office 365 applications, Zscaler recommends that you deploy the service as follows. Firstly, use transparent proxy mode by forwarding traffic to the service through GRE or IPsec tunnels to ensure that all Office 365 traffic, including non-port 443 traffic, is sent to the Zscaler service. Be sure to enable the Office 365 one-click configuration feature, which allows Zscaler to automatically configure additional SSL and authentication bypass rules. We also fingerprint more than 300 applications, including Office 365 applications, so you do not have to worry about any URL changes within the Office 365 suite. Next, also enable surrogate IP, which allows us to map unauthenticated Office 365 traffic to a user's internal IP address within the organization. Using the surrogate IP feature also enables authentication for the Zscaler outbound firewall, so that non-HTTP or HTTPS traffic is authenticated and mapped to users, as well as the Office 365 client-based web traffic. Finally, use the Zscaler app for your road warriors. The Zscaler app does not use cookies for user authentication, so there is no need to bypass security controls for roaming users. The app also provides proxy enforcement even when users have admin privileges for their computers. It simplifies configuration because if the app is installed, then the use of a dedicated port, Kerberos authentication, or surrogate IP are no longer requirements for your road warriors. In addition, because the Zscaler app supports both browser and non-browser traffic, it solves proxy interoperability issues with Outlook and Skype for Business. To enable the Office 365 one-click configuration, navigate to the Policy, URL and Cloud App Control page, then go to the Advanced Policy Settings tab. Select the Enable Microsoft Recommended One-Click Office 365 Configuration option, then save and activate your changes. Note that enabling the one-click option is normally the only configuration change you need to make to ensure optimum performance for your Office 365 users. One item that Zscaler cannot configure automatically when the Office 365 one-click feature is enabled is your custom domain auto-discovery URL in the authentication exemption list. Depending on your business requirements, you may need to manually add the URL .autodiscover.domainname.com to the exempted URLs list on the Administration Advanced Settings page. This URL is used by clients for discovering an EWS node associated with the company domain. The domain name parameter will of course vary from company to company. This exemption is not required if you use the EWS Managed API to do auto-discovery. We also maintain a list of Office 365 applications in an application group that is used in the default firewall rule when the one-click setting is enabled. Again, there is nothing here that you would normally need to configure, although this group is available for you to use in any custom firewall rules that you choose to add. This group is maintained by us to ensure that the Microsoft destination IPs, domains, and Office 365 application URLs are always up to date. When the Microsoft Office one-click setting is enabled, we automatically add a firewall rule that targets and allows the application group mentioned in the previous slide. It is added at Rule 1 and is not configurable, nor can you delete it, although the rule order can be changed if necessary. As we are responsible for maintaining that application group up to date, this should always ensure that the Office 365 application set is always allowed at the firewall. Note that if the Office 365 one-click setting is subsequently disabled, this rule will be set to the disabled state, but will still appear in the firewall rules list. In addition, we also automatically add a DNS control rule for Office 365 that automatically uses the Microsoft destination IP addresses and domains that we maintain. As with the firewall rule, this rule is added at position 1. It is not configurable and cannot be deleted, although the rule order can be changed. We automatically apply a DNS override for Office 365 traffic received on transparent proxy connections, or tunnels, to optimize the data path for users and ensure that they connect to the closest Microsoft application instance. Also, as with the firewall rule, if the Office 365 one-click setting is subsequently disabled, this rule will be set to the disabled state, but will still appear in the DNS control rules list. The original one-click option for Office 365 that was introduced in an earlier release has been deprecated with the introduction of the enhanced capabilities in Cloud Software version 5.5. It is still available for backward compatibility purposes, however, on the Administration Advanced Settings page. If you had previously enabled the original one-click capability, you will find that it is still enabled. If you had not previously enabled this setting, you still have the option to do so from the Advanced Settings page, although the new one-click configuration is much more capable and is strongly recommended. If you subsequently enable the new one-click capability, as described in the preceding slides, you will find that the old option is grayed out and can no longer be managed. Note that if you have previously enabled the one-click setting for Office 365, we strongly recommend that you transition to this new implementation of it, as it is a far more capable and robust solution. An additional Office 365 setting available is the option to specify the specific Office 365 tenants that are to be permitted access through the Zscaler service. Enabling and configuring this would prevent end users from accessing any other Office 365 tenant, for example their personal accounts when connecting through Zscaler. You can add up to 30 domains, plus you must also add the appropriate tenant directory. Note that this configuration enables SSL interception for the login.microsoftonline.com, login.microsoft.com and login.windows.net domains, so be sure that the appropriate root CA certificate for SSL inspection is installed on your client PCs before enabling this option. Finally, this is also where you have the option to enable or disable Skype. The final topic that we'll cover is the option to use Zscaler as the SAML IDP for certain corporate application suites, to ensure that access to them is only possible through Zscaler. For certain application suites, namely Box, Google Apps, and Salesforce, Zscaler can be specified as the SAML identity provider. The object here is to ensure that the corporate instances of these applications can only be reached if the user is accessing them through Zscaler, to ensure the full protection of the Zscaler platform and to log all access attempts. If the user wants to access the corporate instance of these application suites, they must go through Zscaler and authenticate using SAML's single sign-on. Personal access can be direct, although an explicit logout